gonna be a long night.
I know, I need mine higher too, because mine's really low. Come on, how do I put this up? It's like really low. It is. It's just-
How much?
Okay, Bonnie, are we ready? Okay, let's call this meeting to order. I'd like to welcome everybody to City Council meeting for January 11th, 2022. We'll start with first item, which is roll call.
Jason Thielen present. Greg Gordon present.
Present.
Jessica Smuin present.
Lon Lot present.
Okay, we would like to invite Lon Mott to say the opening prayer.
Our Heavenly Father, we are grateful for this beautiful day we've enjoyed today. We're grateful for the opportunity to come together in this beautiful building. We're thankful for the bounties of life that we have all been blessed with, for the opportunity to live in this great country and this great city. We're thankful for the blessings that our families enjoy. We're thankful for the citizens of Alpine who serve one another and help in making life more comfortable for each other. We're thankful for the Public Safety District for their efforts in providing safety for us. Pray for them and their families, and pray that we may now enjoy the evening and discussion about matters that are pertinent and important to our community. In Jesus Christ's name, amen.
Amen. Kelly, will you lead us in the pledge?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, on to the consent calendar. Shane, did you want to?
Let's see, so we have a couple bond releases on here, a payment, a partial payment on our filter station, for CP water, payment for a pickup that we bought, was in the budget, and also for the 10-wheeler dump truck. We previously paid for the cabin chassis, so this is for the bed and build, snowplow, sander, all of that. And then a payment on the Lambert Park walking trail that was finished just before the weather got really bad, I believe. So if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Hopefully everybody got a chance to look at the new truck out there. We've never had a 10-wheeler. There's pros and cons that come with it. They definitely take a little more acreage to turn around. They're not as easy to stop, but there's going to be a lot of benefits to having that when we're hauling asphalt and different things. And it does give us more traction in areas like Three Falls. So should work out well.
Okay, if there's no questions, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent calendar with a few minor changes I made to the minutes with some grammatical errors, as well as Jason.
For a second.
I'll second.
Okay, Lon Lot, Motion to approve the consent calendar with Greg Gordon seconding. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Now it's time for public comment. You want to say anything that's not on the calendar? Other than say, you know, maybe like you love your husband, I don't know. So we'll go on to reports and presentations.
Okay, for the financial report, there should be two reports in your packet. One is one looks like this, other than it doesn't have the tabs on that I have. That's the official financial report for the city. For Kelly, it's broken down by funds, and if you ever want to sit down and go over that in more detail, happy to. What's that? It's in the electronic, isn't it?
No, I'm not seeing
It's
it.
not.
Sorry, it was in that zip file that I sent you. I know. Sorry.
I'm not seeing.
I promise the financial report is there. I was working remotely last week, which I don't have access to our network when I'm working like that. Anyway, so I sent everything in a zip file, but maybe it failed me. So
Just send it out to us. and-
yep, we'll send it out to you in an email. Within probably the next month or so, we'll probably bring a little, just kind of a house cleaning budget adjustment to make some adjustments here and there. If a truck costs a couple thousand more or whatever, just to clean it up, and then we'll do another one at the end of the fiscal year.
And Kelly, I would definitely take up Shane on his office and go over
Yeah,
that. so
for
we kind of
sure.
get an understanding of the working budget.
So the second one that you'll see when you get it is our finance guy calls it the red green report. So this will be the first one. So 6 months into the budget year, he starts doing this, and it helps us kind of look towards the end of the budget year and see where we might have issues. And so we'll go over this in detail at the next month. And then if anyone wants to go over it in more detail in between, we can do that. So. And then just by way of information, I just got this report for the calendar year. We had 76 new homes, at least permits were given for new homes. We've typically been in the 35 range for the last few years. So it was up a little last year, but we're up quite a bit this year. And for this fiscal year, we're up to 28 right now. So,
So is that trending down then for this year from?
it looks like it is a little bit, but I think it might trend back up when things warm back up in the spring, and places like the Ridge and those subdivisions start building more. So sales tax is still looking good. Part of it's probably due to inflation. I'm sure it is, but it's up. Just as we've discussed the last several months. So that's about all I have for that.
Do we have Chad Littlewood here?
Oh, so on this fire station feasibility study, we put the concept study in the packet. We didn't have the financial side of it at the time the packet was sent out. We got that. There ended up being some questions, so we may spend some time on this on Friday. But take a look at this concept study, this feasibility study, see what you think. There's still probably a few things that need to be addressed in there, as Brian and I talked. But it's a good step and start in the right direction, I think. So we won't spend much more time on that tonight, other than we will be bringing more information and talking more about it.
Is there some measurements on any of these plans? Is there so little? I'd
well-
like to know what our offset is on what the existing building is to the edge of the new
Okay,
portion, some of those things.
give you a little.
I
more
can blow it up to
perspective.
see if there's anything
Okay,
any bigger, but I'd like a little more perspective.
okay, we can do that. No
Just
problem.
real simple.
Okay.
And so Shane, would the next phase be where we'd start getting into build out and cost estimates and
Yeah,
timelines
and
all
that's
that?
what we have is a cost estimate. It's pretty rough, I think. But we had a few questions for the general contractor that Babcock sent that to, so we're trying to work through those before we have any more discussion with city council. So, and then if it's something, if it looks like this is the direction we want to go, then what I would suggest is we take that rough cost estimate, talk to Mark Anderson at Zions Bank and say, hey, if our costs were this, what would our bond payment be, and how would we kind of structure that over how many years, so we have an idea to see if we think that's manageable financially. And then once we're comfortable with that, it's full speed ahead. So
I have a question, Mayor. So how much has the fire chief played a part in these plans, or how much?
very much the first cut of this, we'd planned to have this back in December. It came in, there were some misunderstandings from the meeting we had on site. And so Chief Patton worked directly, and I just kind of stayed back. Chief and his guys worked with Chad and brought things closer to what they were thinking. So they've been very involved with this.
Again, not going to question, but every time I've went over there, I hear music, I hear a workout, I was telling Chief Patton, it'd be nice if we had a really nice workout area there. The concern I have is the workout area is on the other side, conceivably where the Civic Center might be, and so if they're working out and playing music and working out over here where it's on this, if I'm reading this map right, I don't know if, it just to me, Chief Patton, seems like that's how a lot of them spend their time when they're waiting between calls or when they're not doing trainings or whatnot. There's a workout course. I'm just wondering if it might be just enough, like I know, but we've got a basement going down there for some storage. What if we expanded that basement out for storage behind it and made a larger workout? My hope is that we would have a really grade A, I don't know, exercise/workout facility in that area. So that's my only little piece as I was looking at it, other than on the civic side, I'm trying to keep that as open as possible and without as many walls, including office space. But just wondering if there's been any thought to try to pull the gym back over where all the firefighters will actually be versus over in the civic center where there could be a conflict if there was an event there that night and there's.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can definitely look at that. I don't know if having a space like the workout area in the basement
Yeah, I don't know.
forces an elevator. It could, which will be a fairly substantial cost, but I totally see your point. And I think it's definitely something we need to look at more.
Or can they punch it out further to the north end to create a bigger, so that it's not on the bottom floor, or so it doesn't have to go down in the basement? I don't know.
Thoughts? If you have any other thoughts, feel free to call us, because we'll be talking a little bit more here. And
So Jason, why don't you talk to the police chief and you guys can discuss
Police
it
chief?
along with Shane.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think it's great. But I do know over there on the Highland side, they have a really nice workout place, and I think we're lacking a bit on our side. It'd be nice if we raised our
Oh,
game
yeah.
up a little bit
Then
there.
it's feng shui.
One other slight question is the cell tower piece. Is there a way that could fit into this build out and be a part of it? Or are we still looking at doing a separate standalone on the property that looks like a water tower?
so we need to contact them and see what their plans are. When COVID hit, they just kind of put the brakes on and really pulled back. We haven't heard anything since. In fact, I think Austin sent them an email last week because we had another company approach us and they want to do a cell tower. I think it was AT&T. And so we told them what had been approved here but not built, and gave them the contact information for the company working with Verizon. And I think that's the last we've heard from them. So
So Verizon
It's-
didn't back off because of the rolling out of 5G. It had nothing to do with that.
I don't
Okay.
believe so, no.
It was AT&T, did they give a geographic description? Was it like kind of this area of the city? Okay,
Yeah, same.
very soon.
This is Austin. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Loud and clear.
Okay, good. So yeah, AT&T did, they literally said, we want to put this in the park behind City Hall. So I don't know if they had done scouting before, but they literally wanted to put it right behind City Hall. So I told them, well, Verizon's already been approved for this. They were approved for a tower that can hold 2 carriers. So, you know, maybe you could be the second carrier on that tower. And then I gave them all of that contact information for Verizon.
So when we have more information on that, we'll bring it back to you. So hopefully by next meeting, we'll have something.
Mayor, I have one other
Yeah.
question. So the 6 bedrooms, just for my understanding, is that for 3 shifts with 2 personnel?
It's really kind of planning for the future, right, Chief?
Yeah, currently we use 4, we have 4
Okay,
staff per day at the Alpine station, so yeah, that would just be for potential,
that's it, okay.
future potential.
And then for that community room, it looks like the parking in space 4 here or whatever. I guess we would need to have some parking, some walkway or something that goes over to that north. I don't know if that's there today, some. sort
There
of
is a walkway there. It,
Sidewalk. Okay.
it needs a little bit of work, but there is a walkway there.
Okay, if that's it, let's move on to the next item. City council assignments. I think I've spoken with most of you already today. It's brought to my attention that Lon has bared the lion's share of the burden of doing basically all of city council and mayoral duties. So what I try to do is I sent an email to all the city council people, asked them, you know, what they would like, what assignments they would like, and I try to distribute evenly as possible. So we'll start off with Kelly Law. He will have parks, trails, and open spaces. So Will Jones is here, so hopefully you'll be working very closely with him. And then he will also be the Alpine Business District Liaison, and he will be he'll be the city council rep for Alpine Days. And then Jessica Smoon will be the Safety District Board alternate. She will also be in charge of the Arts and Heritage Committee and the Cemetery Committee, which are both future committees that will be led, that will include our citizens, and then she'll also be over the Alpine Youth Council. Greg Gordon will be appointed to the Alpine Water District and also be in charge of the traffic and safety. And then he will also be part of the Lambert Park Conservation Easement Committee, and he'll be chairing that committee. And he will also be the MAG and COG alternate. Lon Law will be the mayor pro tem. He'll also participate in the Utah Lake Commission. And then he will also be in charge of the emergency response plan for Alpine City. Jason Thielen will continue as the Safety District Board member. And he will be over the Eagle Scouts, which I'm thinking will be greatly diminished since the Exodus. And then he will also be a member of the Lambert Park Conservation Easement Committee. And then a couple of things that I had, I don't know, do I need to mention, because they're not council assignments, I don't need to talk
It's
about it.
up to you.
Okay,
Then you would be on the Public Safety District Board as well.
correct.
So it's just a point of clarification for tomorrow's meeting at the Public Safety Board. is Jessica gonna be the chair, or are we talking?
No, Brittany's gonna chair it for tomorrow, at least according to the agenda that they had.
And then after that,
Then Jessica will chair and
Right.
she'll work with Shane if there's anything she needs to come up to speed on.
Great.
I think it's just good to get everyone experience on the council.
I've actually really liked being on the public safety board, you know, for that, exactly, learning things.
Okay.
Uh,
Okay, let's go. to-
Mayor, I had one quick
Sorry.
question. With these committees, they don't require a ordinance to create, right? Mayor can just create
No, there
committees.
will be, what is it called? Not an
There
ordinance,
will be a
but
resolution.
a resolution.
It's
So
in
Craig-
draft form
Yeah,
right
so
now.
Craig is working on it and hopefully we'll be ready for the next meeting.
Yeah, there are supposed to be public notices, they're open public, any of those committees. Public.
Yes.
Okay.
Like the Trails Committee.
Yeah,
And then, okay, if that, any further questions?
I have one other question. This is more of a
No,
point of. Mayor, please stop. Point of clarification. I wasn't aware of it. Maybe there is something there that there are, and I don't know if Juan or anyone else has participated, but if there are meetings, you can submit something for payment for going to meetings. Is there anything like, I mean, I've
There
never
is.
heard of that.
There is for council members. It was actually an ordinance, and we need to make sure that we have the latest one. The one that Bonnie found today was 98 from 1998. But I think it's like $50 per meeting. So
Explain what that is and how it works.
you can, and I don't know why, but it leaves the mayor out. But if a council member goes to an extra meeting, they can get paid $50 a meeting. So the best thing, if you could turn in a copy of your agenda or something like that to Carolyn, she can include that on top of, the normal, what you normally get paid as a city council member.
I'm not saying I am. I didn't know that was even the case. So it's good for us to
But-
know kind of the rules
Is
attached to it.
Outside of the council assignments, or is that in,
That's outside of city council.
okay,
So if you went to a public safety district meeting, you could, if you want to, you could submit that for the
Okay.
$50.
So if you go to a Trails Committee meeting as the council member, you could submit that, or is there?
I
certain things
believe
you
that's
can't?
the way it reads, yes. So
That's what,
I will send that out to everyone once I make sure that we have the latest ordinance.
And again, I don't.
Yeah, I don't know why this came
Yeah.
up with
It's all
Troy
good.
and
Any other questions?
well, I mean, to your point, no, but have we, I'm not even aware, have we been doing that in the last decade, or is it just something that I just heard and
it's been done kind of off and on.
that people
Yeah,
do submit
and-
for them sometimes?
Part of it, we probably failed in making sure that that information came out to the council. So we're trying to develop a kind of a new council information packet and a planning commission information packet. Planning commission started on that last week at their meeting.
For,
Just
explain what are they starting on?
information about being a planning commission member to help them.
Oh,
be
yeah, I
more
saw that one.
effective. So
With regards to these extra meetings, are we gonna outline that? I mean,
So he's saying that he'll
Yeah.
do that in the packet.
Right.
Getting together for,
it'll
City
help
council.
us so that when we get a new council member, we can say, hey, here's a packet of information, and that would be in it, because if staff changes or whatever, and we're trying to remember an ordinance that was passed in 1998, it becomes a little bit of a challenge sometimes, so with everything else going on. So if we have this packet, I think it'll be helpful for everyone,
okay.
so. We'll
it
work
might be
on
nice to have visibility. I mean, at the end of the year, when we do our budgets, here's our budget. Obviously we have salaries and we walk through salaries of employees, but if we're doing it, if those type of things are happening on city council, we probably should at least be aware of it and budget for that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, because if it hasn't been happening and it does, it could add up
Affect
to
it.
enough to make a difference, so. But that's usually it can be a budget adjustment thing too. It's great to plan ahead if we can.
Okay, if there are no further questions, let's move on to actions and discussion items. Okay. A resolution 2021. Do you want
me to
to?
introduce this, Carla? Okay, so Jeff Davis was appointed to the planning commission back, I think in September, if I remember right. He was appointed to finish out the term of Sylvia Christensen, who moved out of town. And so he just took over the term that she was serving. And so he's already back up for reappointment to the planning commission. The resolution that's in the packet anticipated a second appointment that is not ready. So in front of you on your desk, there's a revised ordinance that is just to appoint Jeff Davis to the planning commission. And then we'll take care of that other one in a future meeting.
Okay, so if I can have a motion,
I'll make a motion. Move that resolution R 2022-1 be approved. To be appointed to serve on the planning commission, specifically Jeff Davis for a 4-year term ending December 31st, 2025.
do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Jason Thielen, second by Jessica Smuin. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Item B, appointment to the, you can go ahead and do that.
Okay, we'll call this the house cleaning city council meeting because we're doing a bunch of appointments and reappointments and things. So Del Erkey, who's a citizen, has been serving on the Timpanogos Special Service District Board. Some cities have a council member serve, some have a city administrator, engineer. Back, I believe when Don Watkins was the mayor, he chose to appoint Del Erkey, who was a professional in wastewater, I believe in California. And he's been serving in that capacity since then. Del actually contacted me and said that he had found that his term had expired.
Did he say when?
I think it was a while ago. But he's been serving faithfully, even though he wasn't appointed. So, Craig and I discussed this and are recommending that the date the term ends be until further notice. And I guess that's how some of the board members down there are. Some are 4 years or whatever, but so whatever time the council decided they wanted to change, you could call that give the notice and make the change. So he would serve until that time or until he decides to be done.
So this appointment would just be indefinite.
Yep, it would.
Until, he doesn't want to do it anymore, or we find somebody better, but my understanding is he's doing a great job.
Yep, and we'll try to do a better job either a couple times a year or quarterly of having him come in and give a report. He's been in a few times, but it's not been on a regular basis. He does send me emails periodically when there's something important coming up. So we'll try to schedule him probably for February to come in and give a report of what's going on down there.
In our work session, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion. I move to approve resolution R 2022-02, appointing Dale Erkey to serve on the Timpanogos Special Service District Board.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, we've got a motion by Greg Gordon and a second by Lon Lot to approve resolution R 2022-02, appointment of Dale Erkey. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay, item C, resolution for the Lone Peak Public Safety District Board members.
Yeah, so just so for as a refresher and for Kelly being new on the council. So we participate in the Lone Peak Public Safety District Board for police and fire with Highland City. A few years ago, Cedar Hills was involved, and so the makeup of the board is a little bit different. In 2020, I think it was partway through the year, we redid the interlocal agreement to remove any dealing with Cedar Hills from that agreement. At that time, it was determined and voted on by the board that there would be 2 board members from each city, with each city also having an alternate. And then the alternate from one city would be the chair 1 year. The alternate from the other city would be the chair the following year, and that would go back and forth. Since 2020 was a partial year, Highland had the chair for that year, and then the discussion took place to have them continue for 2021. Now that we're at 2022, our alternate would be the chair. And so tomorrow morning at the Public Safety District Board meeting, that will be voted on by the board. And then traditionally, the mayor from each city has served on the board as well as another council member, and then the alternate would be a council member as well. So this resolution just puts all that on paper, along with terms. If you notice on Jessica's term, it just says while they're in office, unless the city makes a change. So hers being a 2-year term expires 2023 instead of 25 on this resolution. So.
Okay, do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion that we adopt resolution 2022-3, the appointment of Lone Peak Public Safety District Board members.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we've got a motion by Lon Lot, second by Greg Gordon to approve resolution R 2022-03. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Item D, resolution R 2022-4, appointment of the Legislative Policy Committee.
Okay, the Legislative Policy Committee, or it's often referred to as the LPC, during the legislative session and periodically at other times through the year, if they have a special session or something like that, it can create a few more meetings. But every Monday during legislative session at noon, the LPC will meet. Each member entity or city or whatever of the Utah League of Cities and Towns can have up to 3 voting members. I've participated in that for several years. The mayor was listed as a voting member on the roster. I don't think he participated too much in this. And we had not designated a third. So in discussion with between Carla, Craig and myself, Carla wanted to have herself, Craig Hall, and me as our 3 members on that roster. So that's how this resolution is put together.
Mayor, can I ask a question?
Do we normally have to have a motion first and then we have questions or no? No?
Well, not a question on a motion,
Oh.
but I'm just curious, do many of the cities in your observation do this configuration with their 3 votes, kind of a mayor? Looks, you know,
It
attorney
varies.
and.
Yeah, it can vary. I mean, you can choose between the mayor, city council and city staff, but a lot of cities put on in that order, mayor, city manager, city attorney. It's
So
pretty
my thought was, especially with Craig, because he attends those meetings anyways. So that's why that, and then it's always great to have, Shane's perspective and, that he has the history of it. So I think he has the background for it.
I think, doesn't Craig, or do you, are on the roster for Cedar Hills?
Craig is.
Craig
Yeah,
is,
Craig
yeah.
and Chandler.
Wait, so Craig has 2 votes?
He would have 2 votes for 2 entities, yes, but the good thing is the bill gets split.
That's good.
So
Okay, so item D. Do I have a motion?
So I'll make a motion. I move that resolution R 2022-4 be approved, appointing the following to serve on the Legislative Policy Committee of the Utah League of Cities and Towns: Mayor Carla Merrill, Craig Hall, and Shane Sorensen.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Sorry, I've been asking. Actually, Shane,
Yeah.
if he's already serving for Cedar Hills and he's attending the meeting on their dime, do we want this? Maybe that wasn't such a prudent decision on my part.
It's totally up to you. I don't think Craig would mind either way.
What do you guys think?
It's interesting, you have it gives him a lot more influence, who gets a double vote on there.
Well, it's not that, but I'm thinking, I just thought he was doing that just to have that knowledge to help the cities that he's working with.
Yeah.
But if he's already attending the meeting on somebody else's dime, can he bill us if he's not a voting member of our? I know, how stupid is that? But yeah, I'm splitting hairs.
And it will be interesting. This is a small potatoes in the whole scheme of things, but it will be interesting as we look at our budget year over year. I'm sure our legal fees for having, multiple lawyers help us with multiple projects will be higher. And again, I say to myself, he's not coming on as freely, he's coming in depending on how much preparation he puts in. That plays a small part in the whole thing, but
Yeah.
I am interested to see the
Did you
difference year over year.
But you're saying that it's a meeting every Monday,
During the legislative session.
which is the
yes.
first first 4 months?
Like we had a meeting a couple weeks ago. So if there's some big piece of legislation coming up that's being worked on right now, they might have one. But then once the legislative session starts up the end of January, right? Then it's if you look on the league's website, there's a calendar right now that all the LPC meetings are laid out for dates. And it's usually noon to 1:30.
And just to clarify, if Craig's attending on behalf of multiple entities, he's not going to be double billing for different entities. He would be discounting half the time for.
I know, but again, I'm saying if he's not, then is he really billing us? Or is he billing for, do you know what I mean? If
And
he's not a
I'm
voting
not
member, he
positive.
wouldn't bill us, right?
I'll text Craig right now and he'll get an answer on exactly how.
Am I being ridiculous?
Yeah, and previously.
Yep,
he said
okay,
yeah.
thank you.
I don't know if that was.
Not the LPC, but when the fireworks issue came up this last summer, Craig asked the city if they wanted him to get involved. The city said yes. So I know he's attended meetings, not with LPC, but it's with some of the same people.
Yeah.
Okay,
representing us on
let's
that.
go ahead and move on with this.
I'm gonna
And
ask one thing. Would there ever be a situation where the interests of the cities are not aligned?
I wouldn't think
So
so.
if he's there representing both and he's like, wow,
I mean, there could be,
But I feel like
but it's
Cedar
usually.
Hills and us, we're pretty aligned in a lot of things.
And
he could always
usually,
cancel out himself. He votes
Right.
right,
for on this city. or
on a lot of
against
these
another.
issues, it seems like the large group is fairly unified, and what this group does is. Like a piece of legislation is coming, so the league staff will bring it to this legislative policy committee group. They'll actually vote on it, and then their recommendation for whether to support, be against it, or whatever will go to the Utah League of Cities and Towns board, and then that board votes on behalf of the ULCT group, all of the member cities. So like a big issues, low and moderate income housing.
And that's coming up.
Yeah, every year for the last several.
But this one, when I was talking to Brady Bauer, he said they are gonna pass the high density and take it out of the city's hands. It's just what it looks like. They don't know yet, but they will do that this legislative session. And that's something that, I think we're interested, and Cedar Hills will be also. But with that being said, let's leave things the way they are, see how it works out, and we can review. So there's a motion, sorry, by Lon Lot, a second by Greg Gordon.
No, it was-
I'm sorry. Motion by Jessica Smuin, seconded by Lon Lot. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, resolution passes. Item E, resolution R2022-05, appointment to the Trails Committee. So I can do this. So we are reappointing most of the members of the Trails Committee, including Will Jones, Trent, Breezy, Anson. I don't know Trent's last name. What is it? That's right, Trent Edwards and Heather Pepper. And then Vicky Burchell has been serving as our equestrian member. And I went by, visited her today and thanked her for her service. And we will be appointing Shelley Butterfield, who is a horse person or equestrian enthusiast, but she's also a runner on the trails and also a mountain biker. And I thought that that would be a good fit. And I've talked to Will about it and Breezy. And hope you're okay with it. You didn't have a big objection when I spoke to you earlier. So I assumed that was a thumbs up. So that's what resolution E is.
So one comment on this. So this committee is just under a year old. It was formed in February of 21. So there's 5 members on the Trails Committee. So that they all didn't go off their term at the same time, we did a stagger. They're 3-year terms. So we did two 3-year terms, 2 2-year terms, and a 1-year term. It just so happens that Vicky's term was the 1 year. So her term just ended at the end of 21. And so now Shelley Butterfield would be appointed for a 3-year term. And then, pretty soon we'll be back. 1 more year, we'll be on full 3-year terms. So that seemed to make the most sense starting out. And that's what the resolution we passed back then said. So.
Okay, do I have a motion?
Let me make a motion. I move that resolution R 2022-05 be approved, appointing Shelley Butterfield to serve on the Trails Committee with the term ending December 31st, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Kelly Law, second by Greg Gordon. Any discussion?
Is Kelly Law on the committee as well, or is doing it?
He's not.
It's just, even though we assigned him to that, he just is not. Okay.
He's the city council liaison, but I strongly encourage him to attend and work with Will. Because he's so awesome. What? You.
Of course.
You, no, everybody knows. Will has done some amazing things for our trail system in Alpine. Okay, so item E passes. Okay, Shane, do you want to take F and G for the opioid settlement?
Yeah.
Did I miss something?
I think we didn't vote.
We just need to vote. We just need to vote.
We voted in our minds.
Yes, we did.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, resolution passes. Shane, if you can go over item F and G.
Yeah, I need to give some explanation here. If you weren't confused on this one, you should have been with what was in the packet that came out. Sorry about that. Craig was working remotely and dealing with some health issues in his family, and I was too. I put new copy. Well, first of all, the agenda was amended yesterday because there's actually 2 resolutions instead of 1. So it was amended to include that second one. The copies on your desk are a little bit modified and cleaned up from what came out in the packet. There were some reference to counties and some different things. And this is, as I understand this, it's really kind of a sign of support for the state, because it probably won't directly benefit us. But according to the recommendations and things we got from the Utah League of Cities and Towns, the more cities that signed up and supported this settlement, the better off it was for the state. Also, as I understand it, there were a couple of states that kind of led the charge in this litigation. And then other states are just kind of riding their coattails and following their model. And that's essentially what we're doing here. We got information late we actually had to sign up by, I think it was January 2nd or 3rd. So we didn't have a meeting where we could pass these resolutions. So the recommendation was that we just sign the document saying that we would be part of the settlement. And then at our next meeting, we would have these resolutions to authorize the signing of something we already signed. So it should have been confusing if it was.
And
So,
by the way, I read that the judge extended the date from end of December to end of January.
oh, good.
So we're
We're good
still
then.
in a period.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what is the difference between settlements and the
I wish I could.
Basically, what we need to know is that this is gonna help the state's case.
As I understand it, it will help if there's enough people involved to get this settlement. Those cities that have like homeless shelters and drug rehab things and stuff like that, as I understand it, it will help them. The funding will help them operate. So, there could be people from this community, even though we don't have a center, that end up somewhere that it will help. And I didn't see, and Craig didn't see any harm in signing up to participate and support this. So
I'll make a motion. I move that resolution R 2022-6 and R 2022-7 be approved for the opioid settlement.
I'll second.
And just one question. So there are a couple drug rehab facilities in the city. I don't know how it'll be allocated, but it looked like it was cities of 10,000 or something, but I'm not sure how it'll work out.
yeah, it could
Worth
trickle
keeping
down to
that.
help them.
Okay.
A motion by Jason Phelan and a second by Ron. Resolution R 2022-06 and resolution R 2020-07. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, they pass. Item H, the electronic signs ordinance. Greg, do you want to do that, or should we have Shane do it?
I guess I'm listed as the petitioner here, so I don't know, Shane, do you want to add anything or?
Austin, are you
Intro.
still on?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm here. Yeah, so I'll go ahead and introduce this. So, so Greg Gordon's listed as a petitioner, but so what's going on is we had some new electronic signs installed in the city for the two elementary schools. So that's Westfield Elementary and Alpine Elementary. And so those signs, when they were installed, we did get some complaints about the brightness of those signs. And so that matter was brought to the attention of the schools and the sign company. And what you see here on this cover sheet is kind of a result of that. They decided to adjust the brightness settings accordingly, even though, this is just something that they kind of came up with based on, that at different times of the day, there's different brightnesses. And so the sign would adjust accordingly. So the Planning Commission had some discussions on this, discussed signs. What was the purpose of the signs? When should they be active? How bright should they be? And they made a recommendation to make some changes to the ordinance. The changes are really kind of influenced by the brightness settings that the sign company created, but they didn't exactly like them the way that they were done. So they have created a proposal here, and I'll just pull it up on the screen. So essentially, in between the hours of 8 p.m. and 6 a.m., the Planning Commission is recommending that there be no illumination on the signs. And then during the standard time of the year, so that would be kind of the winter months, when we're not on daylight savings time, they recommend that the brightness settings be adjusted accordingly. So there's this table here in the proposed ordinance. From 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., the signs would be at 20% brightness. From 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., they could be at 100% brightness. And then from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., it'd be 20% brightness. And then again, during the evening hours, they would not be illuminated. And then during daylight savings time, they felt like it was okay to have signs be fully illuminated during the daytime hours, or daylight hours, I should say. And then again, from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., they would be turned off. So that's the recommendation that the Planning Commission is sending forward for the City Council to review tonight.
Yeah, so if I can give a little more background. So we changed our ordinance about, what, a year ago or less to allow for non-amber or white lights, right? And these are, I'm not sure that we anticipated that they would be, fall within a video board definition, like a, low standard definition. And so these have something like 50,000 lit pixels, so they're quite bright. My concern is that they don't seem to be meeting even our current ordinance because of the brightness at night. And it's not so different, I think, from some of the signs, that we've had even before then, that they're kind of bright at night and for drivers and so on. Some of the neighbors have said that it, disturbs their sleep either at night or if they left it on or early in the morning. I've talked to 3 of the principals who are fine with, more limited hours. What I've told them is, maybe like an hour before school or events to an hour after school hours or events, and they've all been fine with that. With the thinking that you can still get all your students and drop off and pick up and event viewage at those times without having it on weekends and summers and 6 a.m. when there's no cars out there, or later at night. So
I can add anything if you'd like. This is Jane Greitner. If you want to add me to explain where the Planning Commission came up with this from.
Yeah, I'd like to hear it.
Oh, one more piece of information that I was reminded when Greg was talking. So when they first installed these signs, I think this is important to note. They failed to turn on the timer on the sign. So they were actually running at 100% brightness all night long for 24 hours a day. So I think that some of the complaints may have originated from that, but I just wanted to throw that in there as background information.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think that's one of the potential challenges is there's no one at the school there when these turn on or turn off, right? So they don't see that it's when it turns on or off, or if it's happens to stay on. I mean, probably the timers are reliable. There's one mother just, I think last week, she's trying to contact the school because when it turns on at 6 at this time of year, it's very bright in their rooms. And so, apparently there's been at some point there was some understanding there would be more 7 to 7. But those were different signs where they didn't have motion and pictures and so on. Things that we don't allow in the business district or for any of the businesses. I think we have ordinances that restrict, waving flags and balloons and all these things that on Main Street. And lastly, one last point is last year there was a proposed state ordinance that said if you had a video board in a zone that you couldn't restrict that within that zone, basically, and that changed fortunately. But the intent was to not restrict video boards. So, in theory, we may want to be a little cautious because that may turn into, it being permitted at any business or any even, home-based business or residence without restrictions. So
I think when we came up, or when, we were working on it, we made it very specific for the schools with the understanding that, it's the school district that kind of governs what's on the schools. We as the city, even if we have these ordinances, I don't know if we actually have the right to enforce it. because the school board is over, it's a totally different entity and a different government entity within our city. So it's kind of a weird thing. So I felt like, you know, when we allowed it, that we're working with the school. So, you know, I'm glad that the principals are willing to work with us. So Greg, so what I'm wondering is what's proposed is 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Are you saying, do we need to change it from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.? Or?
I think that's one of the options. I think the original proposal, and we may want to hear from Jane with where they went in their review, but I mean, I think the original suggestion was an hour before or after school instruction hours or events. So that gives them the latitude to use it whenever basically school is in use, but probably not, you know, on weekends or so early and late unless they have an event.
So Jane, did you want to pipe in and let us know about the timing from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m.?
Sure. Well, the things that we discussed, several people were interested in the benefit to the community of having the signs. And we talked to people who, you know, work at the school, people who have kids at the school, and our personal experiences, and felt like that there was a lot of benefit to the members of the community to have the signs as a reminder. Most of us have had the experience of seeing a sign as you drove home or something and said, oh my gosh, I'm so glad that I saw that. It's parent teacher conference tomorrow, you know, and some things like that. We also discussed that a lot of times there are events in the summer. The school is used in the summertime for, you know, library hours and summer activities that are held there. And so as those were kind of the things that we discussed, we thought that the biggest problem with it was the brightness. And during the winter hours, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m., having it at 20%, that's 80% lower than when they first turned it on, would be reasonable. And it would also, that same type of thing is just the benefit of having those reminders as people maybe take high schoolers to school and then they're reminded of what they need to do for their elementary school kids, or you know, the fact that it's the book fair that day, you know, types of things like that. We all felt like it was more of a service and wanted to keep it running, but at a low enough intensity level that it didn't cause a problem to the neighboring community. I think changing it to 7 a.m. would be fine if that was something that you are interested in. Then we determined, you know, from 8 to 5, it's light out. And so the brightness is really irrelevant. 100% brightness shouldn't be a problem during the middle of the day. And then again, in the evening, back to 20% brightness. During the summertime, it's light from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., you know, or 9:30 or whatever. So it doesn't really matter. But basically the feeling of the council was, of the planning commission, was that they felt like the purpose of signs at schools was a benefit to the community, and that really it was a benefit to the community for many hours, not just those right before an event and right after an event, that, you know, they felt like people got a benefit from that sign and that reminder and that helping, you know, increase the participation and, you know, working together with the schools. So that was our feeling, and that's kind of what we wanted. I know, Carla, that you've served on many committees and sports and PTA boards and things like that. And so, you know, if you guys have different opinions, obviously, that's great. But pretty much the planning commission unanimously felt like that it benefited the community to have it on longer.
Question, Austin. So the table that's on the cover page, is that, I think you mentioned at some point that was the manufacturer's suggestion, or that's just what they're doing now? That because that's a little different from the this iteration, right? Because it has these 2 periods of 60% and then and from morning and then evening hours?
Yes, yeah, so that's correct. The one on the cover sheet, that the manufacturer, that was their suggested hours, and they've programmed the signs to do that right now, so that's what they're operating currently at, I believe. And so the one that's here in the ordinance, that's in the draft ordinance, this is a result of discussion by the planning commission, and they figured that 60% was irrelevant. It's as if it's bright outside, it's bright outside, and why reduce the brightness? So that was where we got this current chart that we see on the screen from. Does that help, Greg? Sorry.
Yeah, that does. And hopefully that's in place right now. Lately, at 6 p.m. it seems very bright. I don't know if that's 20% brightness or not, but.
On this modified ordinance, I'm wondering if, Jane, did you guys talk at all about, again, maybe I'm not reading it right, but the 3 options that the planning commission came up with, to Greg Gordon's point, there's 5 options before. Should our new ordinance say 100% brightness or less, 20% brightness or less, meaning, is this new ordinance, they have to be at 100%?
I think that's a good idea. I think that's a great idea to add that wording in. I don't think, obviously the schools are not interested in making their sign the most bright, obnoxious thing in the neighborhood. They just want to make it visible. And I think, or less is great. And they can use their judgment, and like was mentioned, the principals at all the schools and anyone, they're very willing to work with the community at whatever. And I think if we, want to work with them at adjusting that to what we think is good, after it's pretty hard to imagine, okay, what does 100% look like during the day? And, and also make it enforceable. So we tried to just make it something really simple, but I like the idea of adding or less.
Because if we did that, then our ordinance would actually work with what they currently have settings wise there. even though They're always less.
Yep.
No. Our current ordinance would not. There's a modification. to
I'm
our
sorry,
current
I mean,
ordinance that would have
what's
to
on
go
the
with
cover? What's currently programmed into their,
Oh,
that Greg was mentioning is currently programmed in their system.
okay, so
Is there one, maybe I'm missing something. Because in the proposal, it doesn't necessarily cover 8 PM to 6 AM. Is that right?
no, it does. There's no signs between. It says.
Oh,
number
up above
3,
number 3.
Yeah,
Okay,
between those hours,
It's
it
just
shall
not in the
not be
table.
illuminated.
gotcha,
And then during standard time, these are the restrictions.
gotcha. Okay.
If
Great.
there are no further questions, I'll entertain a motion.
Could I add one more comment?
Surely.
Number 2, we were thinking of removing point 2, but we decided to leave that in because that was the kind of catch-all to say if something is too bright, and that is that it won't cast a shadow at 30 feet. So if 100% still casts a shadow at 30 feet, then that's too bright. And so that's kind of the safety.
Quantify
in there. Yep.
Okay.
And on one of those topics, when this was originally passed, I think it was, I don't know, 8 or 10 years ago, maybe. A lot of the discussion centered on the reason that the city made this accommodation was for public notices and so on, emergency usage and so on. And I don't think that's ever really been utilized other than for district and school messages, because there's not perhaps a need or a mechanism to do that. So I think that's, and that may be part of the long hours, is that it was supposedly going to be used for community messages, but I don't think that's ever been done in reality.
So do you have a motion with that?
Well, can I ask one more question before we move to that? So right now, the way the amendment's written, they'll still run all summer long?
Yeah, I think they can. I think because they do have some.
Yeah. They don't have to,
Right.
but they can, but typically there are things like, the library open hours or,
Yes.
different
Programs.
things happen in the school almost all summer long.
But they
But I
still
don't-
have to be off between 8 PM and 6
Yeah.
AM.
I think,
not as
you
much of an
start with
issue.
what kind of town do we want? Do we want to notify and use lighted motion boards to communicate? And if we do, then then we have longer hours and all summer. But if we want a community that's a small rural town, and what does that feel like? We probably need to think of, do we want electronic lights going all summer long? Those are the kind of things I consider when I'm looking at this.
And early Sunday morning and and to clarify, I think one of that question, right? So I think from March 13th to November 7th, it would be 100%, or it could be 100% from 6 to 8.
I think if we didn't want these signs in our town, though, that's already been decided.
Yeah.
For us, we came to the fact that it was already decided before now that we will have electronic signs. And so, I can see though, if you want to restrict the hours greatly, that could be done. I just really wonder if it's not as big as an issue as we're thinking it is.
In the summertime, I don't think it'll be as much, just because, but if
I
I'll
don't think so.
entertain a motion, you don't have to stay with the table that's proposed.
Right.
You can modify it, but I'd really
You could add Sundays, you could add no Sundays, things like that. But like I said, the
Yes.
general feedback that we got was that people appreciated the signs and wanted them. As long as they weren't so bright, they bothered the immediate neighbors.
Right, and I'm not backing off of the need for the sign to communicate with the school community. I'm just questioning when does that communication appropriate and when it impacts surrounding citizens and residents, then trying to balance communicating, with the school community, with the majority of these signs are nestled into neighborhoods.
Mhm.
We're sitting here in a residential neighborhood
Right.
with pretty high impact. And again, does that align with Alpine small rural community? And what can we do to better align?
So do you have a
I'm
motion?
thinking that.
Well, then I'd like to think for library hours or other things that could be considered a school event. It could be used before and after those, or within certain, daylight hours or something.
I'll entertain a motion.
Okay. I'll attempt a motion,
Okay.
Mayor. I move to approve ordinance 2022-01 with the following modifications. That the brightness limitations be according to the table in the cover sheet at the 5 levels, including the 60% adjustments, and that the hours of operation be limited to 1 hour before and until 1 hour after school instruction hours or school event times.
So for clarification, are you saying no later than 5 o'clock? Unless they have evening activities, is that correct?
Yes, correct. And I should add, and then and remove the second half of point 3 in the amendment on standard time, so that it applies year round. The added second in point 3 that reads during standard time, the additional following restrictions apply, so that it would apply year round.
So let's take a couple of the schools into account, for example. I'm sorry, that was your motion. Sorry about that. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion.
So, Greg, let's clarify then, as we look at the cover sheet shows the 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. with 0 brightness. Is that what you're referring to as your the ratios on when it's on, the hours it's on, the brightness it is?
Yeah, so I
Okay.
think that describes the brightness settings, but in terms of the hours of operation, it would be limited to school.
So if school starts at 7, it would be at 6 it starts.
It could still start at 6 if
If school
begins
ends at
7,
4, it's at 5 it stops
yes. Right,
completely, not going
yeah,
at any other form of brightness. But the
Right.
brightness settings would be
60%.
60% between 2 and 5 p.m.
yeah, right, unless, but after 5 p.m., if there's a concert, they
Right.
could.
If it goes to 8 p.m. or whatever, then it would be 9 p.m. that it's at 20%.
So yeah, if the schools have like plays, sometimes it goes to at least 8 and you're saying an hour after, that means that those lights can be on till 9 o'clock at night.
Well, but I guess this tables, the hours still, there's still the language here that says it's limited to from 6 to 8 in any form, I
Oh,
guess.
okay, so.
Aren't you putting though, like, the way it's proposed, you can have it on a timer. But if I'm like, okay, we've got a basketball game tonight, so now I'm gonna go and change it to, let's see, the basketball game ends at 6:30, so I'm gonna change it to 7:30, and then, you know what I mean? Like, that could get unwieldy for the school to even manage.
So-
Right. Could I just mention that was brought up, that if we had something like that, they were going to have someone who's literally programming the sign 2 or 3 times a week.
Did you want to amend the motion and see if Councilman Gordon would accept that amendment?
Man, it's like my first time.
I know.
Well,
Or
and
Jason,
I
you
guess
wanna
that's, it. Austin, did you get any guidance from them on what the scheduling is like? I assume the schools would have a regular daily schedule. And then they could, I don't know if they go to the work to add it, maybe to just certain events, or if they could add in special schedules for events or not.
Yeah, I'm not sure how easy it is for them to program like a specific date or something, but my understanding is that someone would have to manually enable that and then manually disable that. The way they have it set up right now is it's all automated. So you don't have, it's just on a timer and the sign just does all the magic. It just lowers the brightness automatically and nobody has to worry about it.
So to me, Kelly, what you might want to do is look at the table that the planning commission suggested
Yeah.
and maybe adjust the times. And maybe that would be more in line with what Greg wants to accomplish without making it so difficult or complicated for the schools to be able to be in compliance with our ordinance. What do you think? So if you want to amend it,
Or I have an amendment.
okay,
So
Jessica?
I want to make an amendment to following the brightness as indicated, but the timing would be different. The 60% would be from 7 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then it would go to 100, and then 60% from 2 to 5, and then from 5, and then I would want it to end at 7 p.m. It would go back down to 20%. So the sign comes on at 7 a.m. in the morning and it goes off at 7 p.m. I would also want to add that there would be no sign on the weekends, on Saturday or Sunday, and that there would be, because again, just thinking of what could be automated. So Saturdays and Sundays, it's no signage, and then only 2 weeks after school gets out and 2 weeks before school starts again, no signage during the summertime.
Greg?
Yeah,
It's up to you. Do you accept that?
yeah, I yes, I accept.
Okay, so how
Yeah,
does this work? We
amendment.
have to vote on her amendment? Is that what we do? And then we go back to voting on his?
So I think Lon needs
We'll
to
need to-
second that amendment.
I think someone else could second that amended motion.
Okay, do we
And
have,
then you vote on the amended motion.
That's right.
okay. Do we have a second on Jessica's motion, which would be, if I have it correctly, 60% brightness from 7 to 11 a.m. Is that correct?
Mhm.
And then from 11 to 2 p.m., 100% brightness. And then 2 p.m. to 5 p.m., 60% brightness. And then from 5 to 7 p.m., 20% brightness.
Mhm.
No weekends, and only 2 weeks before school, after school, and before school's out. 2 weeks after school's out, and then 2 weeks before school starts in the fall. And I'm gonna assume during the summer months, you want no signage whatsoever.
Right.
Okay, do we have a
So-
second for
So
that?
that amended motion is an amended motion.
It's a different
He
motion.
doesn't have to approve that.
Yeah.
He
Right.
doesn't even have to vote for it. She's made
Okay,
an amended motion.
so
and
we asked for a
Can be
second.
made on the amended
So
motion.
I'll
And
second
that
that.
one,
You
we
were-
can
you
have
want-
up to 3 motions
it.
on the table.
Do you want
Okay.
to include everything that Greg said in your motion?
No,
No?
I-
This is a totally new motion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And Greg second, so we have a second by Greg Gordon. Any discussion?
So, yeah, so Jessica, question, so that is a independent versus the, what? Does that include any of the language down in section 1? I guess it's distinct from that, right?
it would include that, but so 1, 2, and 3, but then I think number 3 would then just say electronic message sign displayed shall not be illuminated or activated between the hours of, and it would be 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. And then we would have to add some kind of wording around summer hours and weekend hours. Would probably have
Right.
to be extended on item 3.
As well as the brightness table that you
Mhm.
noted. That, I guess that replaces this table.
Jane, do you know, this is getting way complicated. Jane, do you know if this would make the schools turn from cooperative to uncooperative?
Yeah, that's a
Like-
good point. I think that
weekends.
the Saturday, Sunday thing, maybe, I think they might be okay with that. I'm a little bit concerned about the entire summer. If they are having events, science fair, I mean, I can't remember all the things that happen in the summertime. I'm a little bit concerned more about, nothing going on in the summer. But I wish, I think we could
Chinese-
pass this, but I think we might need to talk to the schools and see how this impacts them, if there's something that we're not thinking of. Just like, the before and after school event sounds great until we realize that it's going to take a lot of staffing on their part to take care of that, so I like this idea of 7 to 7, and
Well,
I
and
hope-
I'm not,
I don't think it would upset the schools.
I mean, I would, if we had some more information on how busy the schools are during the summer, I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't have that information. If it looks like that there's weekly activities that there would be benefit, I would
Mhm.
be open to maybe an 8 to noon. But
Yeah.
it would be nice to have some real, downtime.
You're right.
signage.
You're right. Yeah. And I also don't know. Yeah, I think that's a really good point, because if there isn't a need for it, having it off is great.
So maybe in the summer, we should make an allowance for operation during school events, whatever they,
Yeah. Or like she said, 8 till noon,
Again, if
or
they're needing
but limited to 4 hours, any 4 hours during the day that they
Yeah.
choose.
That's a
oh,
good
they
idea.
have library, what, Tuesdays from, 9 to 11 or something, right?
Exactly.
they
Something
want-
like that.
But I think they want that messaging out so that people remember, I don't think they'll want it only during that time. They'll want it on Monday so that people will remember to come to the
Right.
library Tuesday.
Or if
So
I'm
like
driving
during the summer, something like 8 till noon daily or something.
and I'm never gonna see it then. If it's, anyway.
Yeah. Because you're never gonna drive by. It's on your way to work and home from work.
If I can add one thing, Mayor,
Yes,
I
Jason.
agree with Kelly that we need to make this easy for the schools. You know, it has to be just programmed and go. I'll be honest with you, I think I commend Councilman Gordon on, listening to the people and trying to find a solution, spending times meeting with the principals, and that's great. And the problem we're having here is brightness in the morning and or night. I actually think the planning commission's proposal here solves that. And I think we're trying to fix other things right now that
Yeah.
are
That
maybe
exists.
more than we need to, but I think even following, you can change the times of planning, but the planning commission's,
Do you want to propose a new motion?
well, I don't
We can
want
have up
to.
to 3.
I'm
Why
just
don't you
saying
clean
that,
that up and change it from 7 to 7? Because really, I feel like this is here because it's a nuisance to the neighborhood that it's really bright, right? Going 6 AM to 8 PM. So why don't we change it from 7 AM to 7 PM? Leave what the planning commission said, keep it at that. But I mean, it's not up to me. You guys make the
Yeah,
motion.
so if it's 7 to 7 with, graduated brightness and I would suggest taking off weekends regardless. They end up spending a lot of money getting repairs done in the after the summer because they get shot at.
Really?
Yeah, it was apparently quite expensive this year, this fall.
Okay, so we have a motion. Are we ready to vote on it, or do I have a new, I'll entertain a different motion before we vote on Jessica's motion.
I'll give it one more shot.
Okay, let's hear it.
I motion that we accept the amendment as proposed with the following changes. The item 3 says electronic message displays shall not be illuminated or active between the hours of 8 PM and 6 AM. And the following restrictions apply.
Or did you want to say 7 PM to 7
this is
AM?
the first part where it's off.
I'm saying 8 to 6.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Because there's choir, there's a whole bunch of stuff that goes on over there at night. I didn't think 8 might not be good enough, but. And then I would change the table 6 AM to 8 AM, 20% or less, 8 AM to 5 PM, 100% or less, 5 PM to 8 PM, 20% or less. I think Greg and the planning commission did they've been out doing the research on this, and I don't want to second guess them, so.
Okay, we have a motion on the table by Kelly Law. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Jason Thielen. Any discussion?
So what is that again? So that's 8 PM to 6 AM, so no change. And then the same table?
The same table, but I'm just saying so I'm getting rid of standard time. It's all year round. They just program it in. It's good to go the whole year. They can just let it ride if they want.
Anything about the weekends?
Nope. Just what they put here.
And the question for you, Greg, is to the individual who has a sign that takes off at 6 AM and turns on, that's a problem. In the darker time of year, is it okay now if it's a 20% brightness versus 100% brightness in that situation?
See, I think they would say, because apparently it's, 60% now, which is what's, yeah, I don't know if 20% is visible or not.
So maybe.
Anyway, but yeah, it's so dark that may, show up because they're quite bright to start with. I don't know if what 20% does. The manufacturer has this, I guess that 20 in the evening, but so I guess that's some guidance for 6 AM. I don't know, because apparently that's what they're doing right now. It's still bright. I'm not sure if that's an
Okay.
operation.
So we have a motion and a second. Let's vote on that motion. So currently we are voting on the motion proposed by Councilman Law.
And just one, it sounds like in the past, they've had an agreement with some of the schools from 7 to 7. Like at
Okay.
Timberline
I
before their
know,
sign broke.
I get it, but this is what the motion
Yeah.
is, so you
Mhm.
guys can vote it down. But we need to vote on it because we can't have any more motions on the table. So let's vote on this one and then see what we need to do next, okay?
I agree, and I'll just say one thing. I typically agree with Greg that I'm gonna vote no on it, simply, I like the
That's
whole
fine.
motion, but I think it could be 7
Yes.
AM and make some people happier.
All right.
But he does not agree and he has every right to do that. So we've got a motion on the table. All in favor?
Nay.
Nay.
Aye.
Okay, all opposed?
Nay.
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 Okay, motion fails. Now we need to vote on Jessica Smuen's motion, which was, and I don't remember the details,
Which was?
which
And
was,
I'm
okay,
willing
I
to
remember no summers,
Make it no summers and.
no weekends.
But I would be willing to look at maybe an 8 to noon in the summer. If we could do the 7 to 7,
I think we already did a motion, we have to vote on the motion.
Yes,
okay.
But can we amend the motion?
I don't
think so.
think you can amend that amended motion.
But it's a,
It's a new
You've
motion.
amended it
It's a
three
new.
times.
it's a sorry, what was that?
Yeah, if it's an amended motion, then you need to vote it down.
Yeah.
We need a vote on
Okay.
that motion.
So we're voting on Councilman Smuen's motion. Do we need to, we don't need to go over it all. Everyone understands, right? Okay,
So it's the,
so I just need to know who's in favor of that motion,
Do you
of
want me to
passing it.
clarify it one more time?
I think we've got it.
Okay.
Thanks. Who's in favor of Councilman Smuen's motion?
I,
Aye.
Okay, we have 2 votes aye, and those opposed?
Aye.
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 Okay, so that motion fails. Now we are back to the original motion, and I really don't remember what that was.
I think this was,
Oh, yeah, that's problematic.
not standard time.
So we can propose an amended motion from this point too, or do we have to vote on this now?
I'd vote on it now and then just
Start
make a new
over,
motion. yeah.
okay. So, all in favor?
I,
Aye.
2, okay, and all opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
Okay, motion fails. Do I will entertain yet another
Okay, I haven't
motion.
amended.
I'll make a motion.
It's a new motion. Okay, Jason Thielen.
I make a
Sorry.
motion to approve ordinance 2022-1 as outlined by the planning commission with the following modifications. And item E, take out during the standard time and say the following, the additional following restrictions apply and follow. Start again. On item 3, electronic message display shall not be illuminated or active between the hours of 8 PM and 7 AM, period. The additional following instructions apply from 7 AM to 8 PM, 20% brightness, 8 AM to 5 PM, 100% brightness or less. Each one of these has less. And 5 PM to 8 PM, 20% brightness or less. With item 4 being the same.
Okay, do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Okay, Kelly Law seconds. Discussion?
Just to clarify, Jason, you meant 6 AM to 8 AM
No, 7 AM.
or 7 AM to 8 AM. Okay.
8
It's
PM. 8 PM.
Sorry,
No, no, no,
7
no, no.
AM.
7 AM to 8 AM, 20% or less.
Oh, okay,
8
on
AM
the
to
percentage,
5
on the
PM.
percentage.
Okay. Anything else? Okay,
how,
Okay.
so, how is this different from Jessica's motion? I'm trying to remember.
There's
Jessica's
nothing
motion-
Just
about
had
weekends.
The summer,
The
Summer.
Saturdays.
okay.
and then Jessica also went along with the original brightness also.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Unless anyone is wanting to propose an amended motion, we will vote on the motion that's on the table.
Well, I think we could attempt an amended motion. That was similar to Jessica's, but just included some morning times in the summer.
So do you want to do that? You can do that now. I just-
Yes, but
So an amended motion is taking my motion and adding something different.
Yes,
Okay.
a substitute motion would
sorry,
be
Yeah.
a substitute motion.
Yeah, you can do
And I
a
think that's what
substitute
we've
motion.
actually been doing is
a
substitute motions.
substitute
not
motion.
amended.
Kelly did a substitute motion.
Right, I did a substitute.
So are
So-
you-
Meaning you could take my motion and amend it and simply say, I amend Councilman Thielen's motion and simply add Saturdays or summers to it.
Yeah.
Correct. And then still vote for that, but if it doesn't pass, it moves to what you said.
So what about on the substitution to include 5 flex hours during the summer to be determined by each school of what they need? And then if they would rather,
Sure,
then it gives also some nice off time.
yeah.
Or
So,
you could just amend this motion and add all of that. And amend, if you don't like. I like the elegance of what the planning commission has. Instead of going from 20 to 60, 100, just keep it basic 20, 100, 20. Adjust the times if you must. And if that's what you're looking at, because I feel like that's what you're looking at, is you want to adjust the times. And then you can add that, and that's just amending it, and then we can pass it.
yeah, and I agree that it's simpler, it's cleaner, and I normally think that the one in the cover sheet would be too complex, except that apparently this is what they're doing now. And so if they've already got this in place, apparently it's not, difficult to program. So,
So do you have a substitute motion or amended motion that you would like to propose?
yeah,
Okay, let's hear it.
so I'll make a substitute motion. That we modify ordinance 2022-01 to change the hours from 7 a.m. until 7 p.m. Year round, and not and strike the section during standard time. And use the brightnesses listed in the cover sheet. Going from 0 to 60 to 100, 60, 20%. And that the sign shall not be used on weekends or in summer months, except that the schools may operate the sign for any 4-hour period otherwise allowed in the summer months.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Gordon, seconded by Councilman Smuin.
Did we want to add the or less?
Yes, and I modify that to add or less for each of the brightness settings. Yes, that's a good point.
Bonnie, did you get that? Okay, can we vote on it? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 2 ayes, all opposed.
Aye.
Aye.
Guys, I really wanted to be done by
Well, you've got
7:30.
a motion still on the table.
Yes,
Yeah, and
okay,
again, I
so
like
that,
Everything. that
Councilman
we add except for
Gordon's-
the summer things.
Yeah. so-
Councilman Gordon's
So-
motion failed. We're back to Jason's motion, which was, Jason, remind us, it was 7 a.m. to,
It's basically exactly what Kelly Law had, minus I pushed it
To 7 a.m.
to 7 a.m. versus 6 a.m. is when.
okay, so 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., 20%, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., 100%, and then 5 p.m. to 8 p.m., 20%. Is that
Okay,
correct?
So would you amend your motion to what I had, except we don't put any restrictions on the summer?
You don't have
He doesn't
restrictions
have
on the
restrictions
summer.
on the summer.
Right, that's what,
Yeah,
so, again,
You want restrictions in the summer, you say?
no.
Yeah.
Mine without restriction. So meaning it really comes down to brightness mostly for you.
And weekends.
yeah, and well, if you talk to some of the neighbors about this being on at 8 PM or 6 AM, it's, you know,
So we changed it to 7. At that point, it should be getting light enough to turn on at a 20% should be okay.
7's, yeah,
And at
Should
8
be.
PM at night, people typically don't go to bed by 8 PM, but they're off at 8 PM. So from a standpoint of trying to not bother sleeping patterns or people like that, I'm wondering if going to 7 PM is better.
You
We're hitting
still
this one
have
hard
the, you
for-
still
It is
have the
better.
20% brightness though, right?
Yeah.
5 to 8, according
Okay.
to what the planning
So
commission had.
there are neighbors that say that it goes right into their living rooms and kitchens, and that's,
It sounded like the planning commission had done some research there, so I'm trusting them on that.
So we have a motion and a second. And again, it's from 7 AM to 8 AM, 8 AM to 5 PM, and then again, 5 PM to 8 PM with 20% brightness. And then no restriction on weekends or summer, is that correct?
Right.
Okay,
Took off during standard time.
okay.
And
Oh,
or
yes,
less.
and or less on those brightness or less. So
And
we
I'm
have,
Totally amicable if we try this. If it doesn't work, I want to come back in because they're still frustrated.
okay, let's put this to a vote. All in favor of passing?
Aye.
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 Okay, 3 ayes, so the motion passes. I'm assuming you two are against it. All those opposed?
Nay.
Okay, it passes 3-2 vote. And if we have to redo it, so be it. Okay. Okay, item I, ordinance 2020-02 fences on private property. So should we have Austin or Shane?
Yeah, Austin.
Austin, you're on.
Yes. Okay, yeah, so this ordinance, really what we're trying to accomplish with this is we've had some people that have installed fences and they're just not clear. They come back and they say, well, your ordinance doesn't say that the fence has to be on my property or that it has to be on the property line. And so we've had to make people move fences and, you know, they're blaming it on our ordinance. So we just wanted to kind of tighten that up and just make it so that it's completely clear that your fence has to be either be on your property or on the property line. And so we've added this language to the ordinance here. Let me see if I can get it on the screen here.
Kind of
The
sad that
most
we
common
have to
sense ordinance
say
I've ever
that.
seen in
I
my
know.
life.
This cost me 2 hours this afternoon. Imagine another person did
Wait,
this.
I'm confused on what this is.
Because people are building fences outside their property lines.
So I thought, okay,
Yeah, they're,
Yes, okay. Anybody have any questions or discussion on this before we?
So if there is some confusion on this, there's may still be confusion on it if it says fences shall be located on property lines or within property boundaries. If they're confused that it's going or they're putting it on someone else's properties, that is crazy. But what's to say that they won't go ahead and put it on someone else's property then with this writing here? It's on someone's property, just happens not to be on their property.
So should we put the onus on the fence builder to get a survey?
It's, the survey's gotta be the property owner's responsibility.
Right.
Or does it make sense to your point to add one word that says fences shall be located on owner's property line? Or within property?
Yeah,
owner's property line.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
It's, and I don't know if you need to say on fence owner's property, who is putting up the fence? I've seen 2 fences go up, foot apart from each other. So, so yes, it does get a little confusing and people shouldn't be confused that what is mine should be mine, and what is yours shouldn't be mine. Right?
Yes. So did you want to make a
But-
motion to amend the
But
wording?
that would be part of this discussion that I'm seeing. That fences should be located on property owners' property. Somehow, I mean, owner's property, how you want to word it.
So Lon, I would entertain a motion to approve it with that condition. If you so choose.
Can I ask a question about the process? So what if I'm gone for the weekend and I come back and my neighbors put a fence up? Is there any kind of?
On their property, it doesn't matter. If
No,
they
my
got a
neighbor
permit.
put a fence up and they're encroaching on my property.
Oh, then yeah.
So,
yeah.
so I'm the property owner, but I was gone for 2 weeks on an anniversary and I just am wondering if this is becoming an hours and hours of your resources used, should someone have to get a survey?
Yeah, I would sarcastically say I'd call the city and complain, but.
I'll make a
Kinda
motion.
what happened.
Okay, Jason's got a motion.
I move that ordinance 2022-2 be adopted with the following change. 3.21.6061 should, the last line should say, the additional line should say fences shall be located on owner's property lines or within owner's property boundaries.
Okay, is there a second for the motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, discussion? Okay,
So question then, as a city, then we have lots of property that sometimes we put fence up and would we define, would we, with that verbiage, would it be clear to a homeowner on that abuts our property that we have the right to put our fence on our property because we're the owner. We are considered the owner. Alpine City is the owner.
So a case where we had a lot of fence to go in and it was against quite a few different properties would have been Creekside Park. What we chose to do there, we didn't want a dozen different kinds of fence that we'd be seeing from the park side. So as part of the project, we chose to put a black chain link fence around anywhere we touch private property to accommodate the adjacent property owner maybe not liking a chain link fence. We came a foot into city property, build our fence there. So it left them plenty of room if they wanted to build a different fence. We've had a couple of complaints. Hey, can I take this out and change it? We said, no, we built the fence the way we wanted it. We pulled it in a foot. If you want to build another one, you're more than welcome to. That's the best example I can think of.
And
there.
we would be considered the owner of the property as this is
Written.
written.
Yeah.
Okay.
okay. Any other discussion? If there's no further discussion, we'll be voting on ordinance 2020-02. Motion by, was it Jason Thielen? And seconded by Lon Mott. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously.
And the fence permit does say it's the owner's responsibility to determine property boundaries and that the city recommends them getting a survey.
Okay.
So that language is on there. It's a free permit.
Okay, staff reports. Chief William? 7 a.m. 7 a.m.
Tomorrow, 7:30 normally.
Chief Patton?
It makes a difference to me. I've been there, so I'm glad I was here for this. I asked Shane for all of your emails, on our big fire trainings, our bigger stuff, not just our daily stuff. I'm gonna start shooting stuff out. It's an invitation to come, it's an. That's what we're working on right now. Anyways, if it fits your schedule, we do everything in threes, because we have things, so when these trainings come out, you wanna stop by, see what's going on, talk to the guys, like I said, more than welcome to put you in your ice suit, put you in a PFD, and get the ice, no way.
Do you have a dry suit?
And then you'll CPR, use CPR and.
So anyways, you might be seeing some training emails.
Okay. Thank you. Austin, do you have anything?
I don't have anything at this time. Thanks, Mayor.
Okay,
Nothing from me, Mayor.
okay. Bonnie, Shane?
Yeah, just a couple things. So on January 19th, there is the local officials day at the legislature. I don't know, has anyone signed up or does anyone want to go to that? Or Carla, do you know if any of the youth council?
They are, I'm sorry, I forgot to get back to you. They will not be going. They set up a separate time with our state senator, Mike Kennedy,
Okay.
and they're gonna go up on a Saturday, so they don't have to miss school.
Okay. All right. Does anyone want to attend that? It's kind of a mix and mingle with legislature and they involve youth councils too for some of that. So if we sign up by tomorrow, it's like a little bit cheaper. So if you want to go, let us know and we can take care of that. Friday, we'll have our special city council meeting, kind of a planning meeting from 8 to 11, right? That's what we scheduled. I'd hope to have some information out to you already, but some things keep getting in the way. And I hope to have this to you tomorrow. I've gathered a lot of stuff. I just need to write some kind of cover sheets for it, for items that we'll discuss. Just by way of information, we replaced the furnace in the relic hall over here. The DUP ladies, I think, will be very happy. They'll also have central air in the summer, which they have not had. They don't know that yet, but our snowplow guys have been really busy, which is great because it means we're getting snow in the mountains, which we need. And it all suddenly went from very winter and snowy conditions to pretty nice days. It's a little bit cold, but I hope it continues to snow. We've had some kind of staffing shortages. There's been quite a bit of sickness go through the office. I think everybody's getting hit with the Omicron or whatever they call that variant, and now the next one's apparently coming out. So we're getting back in better health. And then probably a couple weeks before Christmas, we had a couple of bighorn sheep make their way down Main Street, and yesterday there was a moose.
There was
I don't know
not.
if you saw it. It was over by Peterson Park and Ridge Drive, that area. The fishing game came and tranquilized it and moved it out of the city. So the wildlife are liking Alpine this winter. I think that's all I have tonight.
Okay. Councilman Lott?
I've got a Utah Lake Commission meeting tomorrow morning, or Thursday morning, actually. Special one called. They're working on a Representative Brady Brammer is working on a change in to see who manages the lake. Currently, it's not being overseen with enough funds to do anything with the lake, and so.
Okay.
So that's a special meeting that morning to go over some of the changes, because the Utah County doesn't want to lose the control that they do have, the waterfront properties, Lehigh and Saratoga and Vineyard, and those guys don't want to lose any of the control that they might have on the land that's
So,
around it.
on that note, there's also a meeting that Mayor Kafusi is hosting on Thursday regarding the same thing. And I was going to ask you to zoom in on that. It's a Zoom
Okay,
because I have to work all day Thursday.
okay. When? is
It's
that?
this Thursday. I think it's like from noon to 1:30.
Oh, okay. Okay,
But I'll forward the information to you. Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Jessica?
Just been working with Carolyn on, looking at who we want to go, which company to go with on the new website. So the top of the priority is getting a better communication for residents and for us to be able to have more of a streamlined, hopefully move to a paperless experience. So
I think part of that
any
is
kind
like,
of feedback
yeah.
would be great. We're just at the very early stages. Once we pick the company, it's still a 5-month minimum to go online with a new website.
so you're gonna do it soon.
Yeah, yeah. The goal would be to have it up and running by Alpine Days so that Alpine Days could run really smooth.
And so some of the things that you guys are looking at are like paperless bill pay that will make it easier for the residents, right? Right now, we have over 100, like currently, I think, what is it? I was talking to Carolyn, over 650 checks that they have to manually enter. That takes time away from, other things that she could be doing. So anything that we can do to streamline that. And then also feedback from the residents.
Place
You
for
know.
committees to be able to be transparent and communicate clearly with what they're doing. Great.
Okay,
I don't know if there's a way to improve the development code on the website, but to try to navigate and search through that development code right now with the technology that's here, it's
Yeah.
very difficult.
It'll be a completely
It's a
new
It needs
experience.
to be
Yeah.
fixed. I
Yeah.
can't find anything. by
they're not
search.
fixing it. It'll be a whole new engine.
So
So,
do you mean the Muni code or is it a separate area?
Oh,
I
really?
don't think it'll change the development code though, because that's a whole
oh, is that
separate.
what you're talking about?
There's just a
We've gone
link
to
to
Oh,
development
I'm sorry.
code and
Yeah.
try to navigate. It's very difficult.
I think that should be one of our training points then, because you do need to know how to do that.
Mhm.
I've learned how to negotiate that.
And
It
you-
isn't as user-friendly as you would want, but you do need to just know the
So that might be
process.
good for one of our work sections. Maybe you could kind of go over, we could take, a little bit of time and kind of go over that so everybody's on.
And really Muni code is the standard that all
Yeah.
municipalities in Utah use. There's not a.
Yeah, it's just gonna be more
Another
of a
option.
link to that.
Mhm.
But
Sorry,
if
I
there's specific
misunderstood.
examples of where you're running into a problem, if you can get those to us, we'll send them to Municode and see if they
I
can
think
help.
Ron's right. I mean, if I want to look up lighting, for example, or parking, calculations, I could type in parking or parking spaces, but it's not going to bring up what I want. It limits it in a small area here, and it's just very difficult to navigate to try to find.
Yeah.
Jessica, I have a couple ideas on the website also.
Okay, perfect. Kelly, do you have any?
Nope.
Okay.
Great
Greg?
first city council. Thanks, everybody, for making me feel so welcome.
You made a motion in your first meeting. Sorry, it got shot down,
That's
but
okay.
it's,
Live and
now
learn,
you're a real
live
councilman.
and learn.
you're not a real council person unless you get your motion shot down.
Yeah,
Greg,
nothing tonight, thanks.
Jason?
Can we get a quick update on the Hog Hollow Trail negotiations or discussions and with Blue Bison? Is there anything new that's come out of that? If citizens ask us?
You might know more than I do, Carla. I'm not.
We're working on it, but it's still, nothing's public yet.
Are we working with Highland on it? jointly?
Yes. We thought we had something, but it hasn't quite come to fruition yet. I just had one question as far as PI. How close are we to getting that metered for this season?
We're probably we'll shoot for the first meeting in February
Really?
with something for.
We'll have rates and be ready to
Well,
go.
for a presentation to the council, I don't know if it would be ready to approve that night.
Okay. But before it gets turned on though, right?
That's the plan, yes. For
Okay,
sure.
I'm gonna hold you to
Mhm.
it. Okay, that's it for me. If there's no other communication, I'll entertain a
Make a
motion.
motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting's adjourned. Hey, Will, can I talk to you for a sec?